Oh, that's right. You can see, I think you can see Penny in the picture here if you're tuned in this afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, I'm Ann Eller. This is WCRS. Meet me at the diner. Got my co-host Penny. We got Representative Daniel Gibson with us. He represents District 12, which is Greenwood and McCormick. And he is here with us to talk about a legislative session that's wrapped up. Actually, it wrapped up back in May. Of course, they're still working on getting a budget together. But anyways, I know that you've brought some bills you think have the greatest impact. But before we get to the specifics, how would you describe this year's legislative session overall? Productive, challenging, a little bit of both?
I think it was overwhelming. We were talking earlier before we went on the air of the fact that in the House we feel like we've got a lot of things done, but it seems like it's slowed down in the Senate. But
that is the deliberative body, correct?
Yeah, but I feel like we got a lot done in the House, and I think the exact numbers. We had 32 signed into law. We probably had another 28 or 30 that was sent to conference or sent to the Senate that didn't get signed into law. And then, you take thousands of votes and you wind up with 32 signed into law. It seems disheartening. But when you look at what we did overall, especially in the House, I think we did a fantastic job and we got a lot accomplished.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about was I think you guys have a system worked out. If it's a bill you really don't want to have to deal with, you go ahead and pass it and you send it over to the Senate. And then sometimes it kind of dies or doesn't move into the Senate. And so you can say, we did our job and passed it to the Senate. And I think the Senate does the same thing by sending you bills. Don't you think there should be some type of time frame, like a couple of weeks, and you've got to say whether you're going to take that bill up or not?
Yeah, there is a time frame, but it's 2 years. That's the
2
bad
years?
part. Well, session.
Come on.
Well, session's 2 years. But I don't feel like we do that in the House. I really don't. I'm being sincere. I can't speak for the Senate, but I really don't feel like that when we're working on a bill, and we rarely send them back to conference once it makes it to the floor. We've dealt with it.
Right.
Once it comes out, and I feel like it's our job to go ahead and vote it up or vote it down. If there's something that does need to be tweaked with amendments, we can do amendments on them.
Sure.
And we can send them back to committee. But I don't like sending stuff back to committee. I feel like that work should have been done before it got there. Then once it gets to the floor and the bill is explained and we do tweak it with amendments, I really don't believe we send things over there just to die a slow death in the Senate, as I like to say.
Then they go, oh, well, we passed it. I mean, because I've heard it. We passed it from out of the House, or we passed it out of the Senate. I think it's kind of a little subversive thing, but maybe I'm just talking
No.
out.
I'll give you an example. When something passes the House 124-0, and then it goes to the Senate and it gets voted down by, especially when it's voted down by Republicans, that breaks my heart. But the numbers don't work. If it passes the House 124-0 and it goes to the Senate and stalls,
right?
Something's wrong. Something's wrong with this picture,
agree with
right?
You. Right.
But they're lawyers. They're smarter than we are. So
smarter. I don't know about that. But let's see. I wanted to talk about, you're on the Agricultural, Natural Resources, and Environmental Affairs Committee, correct? And you're also the vice chairman of our Greenwood County Legislative Delegation. What's it like to be on those committees? What's your favorite committee out of all of those?
I love it. I do sit on agriculture, and all those are tied together. And I also sit on interstate cooperation, which has to do with boundaries and rivers coming together. But I sit on a subcommittee of wildlife. And I'm not a big hunter, and I haven't fished in years. I don't have time, but I have a lot of friends who are. So I love the fact that I can sit there while we're on the floor, or we're especially in committee, and reach out to my friends that are hunters. And it's surprising. We will, let's say, we want to lower the deer cut. We're going to take one deer, take it down to one, or lower the turkey from 2 to 1 or whatever. We lower the catfish count on Lake Moultrie for 150 on blue cats. You would think people would fuss about that. But when I talk to my friends that are hunters, every one of them agrees with us. They said, I had rather get one turkey this year, kill one this year, and be able to take my grandson hunting in 3 years than to take 2 or 3 and the population goes out. So what we do, we actually sit down with the experts at DNR and wildlife. They come in and give us these, reports they've been working on for months and years, and we make decisions on those counts. That's one of the coolest jobs down there to me, and it's fun. It's fun, and the environmental issues we had talked about, the data centers and stuff that comes across our desk.
Well, I was
so we deal with a
wondering
lot of stuff on
because
that.
the wildlife, the humans, the humming that they talk about, and everything, even solar farms, how they affect the land, I would presume, and the wildlife in those areas.
Well, one big concern is just the farmland that we're losing to those entities. Danny Lee Ford he spoke the other night at a data center meeting over in McCormick, and I've heard him speak a couple of times about how it affects farming in South Carolina. We're already having a big problem in South Carolina. All the pulpwood mills have shut down. Used to, if you wanted to have your field harvested, you could get somebody to come in and thin it out for free just to take out the small wood.
Right.
Now they won't do that. It's just not worth it because there's no market for it anymore. So we're losing farmland, and that's something to consider with these data centers. Some of them take up 50 or 100 acres or whatever. But a lot of that land's not being utilized either. And I haven't made a decision for or against it. I just think we're in a place where we need to be gathering more facts before we make decisions. You and I talked about some other things that they have done. The nuclear plant, they lost several $100 million on. This is before my time. Scout Motors was, during my time, and there's some problems with that. But we need to think about it. There's always going to be unintended consequences with whatever we do, and we need to take time. And that's the thing with the moratoriums. A lot of people are asking for those.
Sure.
It's just let's
state,
slow our roll,
do you think the state, because this is a question that's been asked of me to ask you, do you think the state should look at doing a moratorium on data centers for the whole state for a period of time, a year, 2 years, whatever?
I personally don't. I think, and you and I have talked about this before, I think it's the councilman in some places, they just are afraid to make a decision one way or the other, or they don't, for whatever reason, they can't make that decision. I don't think that a moratorium is a decision that should be handled on the state level. I think that should be a local issue. What happens is what's good for Charleston may not be good for McCormick County, which is one of my districts.
A moratorium would give you the opportunity to explore all the problems and understand what a data center brings to an area besides the money, the issues that come with it. I think we in Greenwood just passed a moratorium here in Greenwood that will give us a year to find out all the information. So the question is, if the state did a moratorium, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm just saying if the state did a moratorium, it would give every county, because counties seem to be coming faster than you can believe at going towards a moratorium, would give them the opportunity to slow down and find out all the facts.
Yeah, I understand the moratoriums and I understand the benefits of them. I just personally don't think that it's a decision that the state should make. I think that should be handled on the local levels. Now, it hasn't come up for us to do that, and it may come up in January, and I'll relook at it, revisit, and see what those rules and regulations are. There should be guidelines in there that can be done. But I just personally think that it's not our place to tell the counties what they need to do. And the only people, and I'm not afraid to say this, the only people that I have ever told me we want data centers is county councilmen all over the state. It's not just in Greenwood or McCormick, it's all over the state. They're wanting them. And the problem that I see, it's like going to buy those timeshare things.
Right.
Today only deal. Right. We're going to sign you up today, and hey, if you don't want it, that's okay. We've got 1,000 other people and that's what they're telling these county councilmen is, look, you're going to get $10-20 million in your coffers. We're going to provide our own natural gas lines. We're going to provide our own power. Don't worry about the water. We can recycle that. We used to use 1 million gallons. We got that down to 100,000. they're going to promise you the moon. And I just kind of say what I think. If somebody told me either you do this now or we're going to do something else, I'd say maybe that's what you should do.
Exactly.
Maybe you should just move on down the road. So they're using that, to me, this is just my personal opinion, as a threat to the county councilman and to the counties to say, if you don't want it, we'll take our money elsewhere. And my answer is, well, you came to us for a reason.
Right.
You came to Greenwood for a reason. You came to McCormick for a reason. So I don't, if you feel froggy, go ahead and jump. Because I don't think I'd want to be pressured into doing that.
Right. Well, we just did, and I understand McCormick is now talking about a moratorium down there. Is that right?
They are, and they had a meeting. God, I don't remember. I've been so many this week. I don't know if it was last night or the night before.
This week.
Was it this week? Yeah. But I've been to Greenwood for them. I've been to two over there. In McCormick County, they didn't actually take a vote. They just had a hearing, from the people. But they didn't get out of executive session until about 11 or 11:30 at night. So
11:30 at night for executive session?
Well, the executive session didn't start until after all the people had spoken, and they had about 3.5 hours, which I like that. I like people being able to come in, give them a timeline to say what they want. But you and I have both been to these events. I have never one time heard a constituent say, I want this. Not one time, unless they were a paid consultant.
Probably.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go on and talk about some of the other things here. So, what accomplishments are you most proud of this session? What bills that passed? What accomplishments?
Yeah. I can't tell you this without telling you a story.
Okay.
I know we've had, of Representative Guffey's from up around York and Spartanburg. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, his son got caught up in something on the internet where people were taking pictures and manipulating them and things like that, and he lost it. I don't know if you've ever spoken with him.
I know the story.
But he lost the story.
He lost his son.
It will break your heart. I've heard him.
He committed suicide. His son did.
Yeah, he did. He came in, and how you doing? I'm good, Dad. And next thing you heard was a gunshot. And he led the charge on a lot of these bills. But out of everything that we have done down there, I think the things that we have done with internet manipulation and things like that is the most important. And let me find a couple of them here that we've got. Child abuse protection. It makes a generated child sexual abuse material illegal and strengthens the penalties for that. Let's see, I've got another couple of them on there. Sexual exploitation of a minor increases penalties and closing loopholes. Anyway, we've got about 4 or 5 of those that we did. Obscene visual representation of child sexual abuse. That's House Bill number 3045. It just bans AI generated. We've got about 4 or 5 bills that we passed on that. Had it not been for Mr. Guffey, I don't think a lot of this stuff would have gone through. Mm-hmm. And what really amazes me is we get pushback sometimes from opposing parties on those bills. And you would think that's something that everybody in the world would be on board for. Mm-hmm. And their reasoning is, well, I have to give out my information. If a child can't get on with it, if they try to give their information, they know who you are, where you are anyway. And if they say, well, that hinders me from getting on. So they've told me that it makes it what we have done now, because this has been enacted. If they try to, and I've had grown men tell me this, well, if I try to go onto one of these sites, even a pornography site or whatever, it makes it harder for me to get on. I've got to give them my information. I said, well, you freak, don't go on first thing. And they already have your information anyway. I think I have like 3 or 4 bank accounts, and I pay my light bill and everything else. They're using facial recognition. Right. I bet you 90% of the stuff on my phone, I don't know how you do it, is facial recognition. We used to use the thumbprint. Remember that? You'd touch it with your thumb. Now we do facial recognition, and I get upset when I have to actually put my password in or verify a code. But I actually had a legislator tell me, Well, the problem now is I have a harder time, and I've got to be verified to get on these sites. And like so, that's
and
one
you
of the,
just looked at him, I guess.
I just shook my head, you know. But they could take a picture of someone's 12, 13-year-old daughter, just a headshot, and put her in a pornographic situation, and then they pass it around to their friends and to their schools. And there was no penalty for that, but now there is. And thanks to, sadly, to Mr. Guffey for pushing all of these.
Now, did it pass
bills.
the Senate?
Oh, yeah, these have already been signed into law.
Signed into law.
I think there was 4 or 5 of them that they got. Yeah, can you imagine a governor said, "I'm not signing that"?
Well, I mean, if the Senate didn't pass it through, then it could not have made it through. That was my point.
Yeah, but all of those have been signed into law.
Signed into law. So, any others that you really feel strongly about this session?
That's probably the one that touched me the most. Is those things. You know, and you and I had talked about the tax thing. Everybody makes a big deal about the tax. We're working on that. It's going to gradually, and I won't do all the numbers, they're boring. It will gradually get down to zero. But I've never had anybody walk up to me and say, you know what, I think we're paying too much our income taxes in South Carolina are too high. So that really was never a big problem. Another thing we got a lot of pushback on that I'm very proud of, and it has been signed into law, is the fentanyl-induced homicide. And I had a lady call me out of the blue. This is like 3 years ago from Anderson. And she told me that her son, she said, you know, I'm not making excuses for him, but he bought some drugs and he got fentanyl and he died. And she said, there's nothing on the books that you can do about that. So we passed the fentanyl-induced homicide. You can get up to 30 years. If you're a dealer and you sell to someone and fentanyl is found to be the problem, and they die, you can get up to 30 years for that. And people, again, the opposition says, well, you're just pushing it too far. That's, but this is, even if you don't know there's fentanyl in it, if you're the dealer and you don't even know fentanyl is in there and you sell it to somebody, you can still get up to 30 years for selling fentanyl. Our goal, and a part of this is because I feel like the judges weren't doing their job. What was happening was somebody would come up with fentanyl charges or death by fentanyl, and they just slap on the wrist sometimes because there really wasn't any guidance for them. So this law tells them you can get up to 30 years, and our goal is very simple. Don't bring fentanyl into South Carolina. Don't sell fentanyl in South Carolina. And it doesn't even matter. A lot of people will say, well, it shouldn't have been taking the drugs. Well, people do. And they may think it's Oxycontin or whatever, or prescription or whatever they're buying. But Nancy was right when she said don't do drugs. But we're not blaming the person that's consuming the drugs on this, and we're blaming the person that sold it to them.
Right.
So the goal is don't bring drugs into South Carolina, especially fentanyl.
Well, one of the big issues in our state is the roads. And I know they have made some changes on the roads. I know they have done some modernization, correct, on how things are supposed to work going forward. Is that right? Yeah,
there is. And basically what it does, they had a board of commissioners that would run the show pretty much. But this allows the governor to make the appointment for the director over DOT. And I like that. Some people don't, but I like having accountability, that you can go to the governor and say, hey, this is your guy. Are you going to just stand there and let him do this in South Carolina? Right. There has to be a finger, someone to point the finger at.
Right.
So I like that. And also, as I told you, I spoke with Davey Hyatt, the Republican caucus leader, who was sitting in those meetings last night, and he told me they've got an extra $200 million that they have allocated for roads and bridges, in addition to what they already spend. And while I'm there, I don't know if I'm sure you've thought of this, but I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't we do a moratorium for a while on the gas tax, because the gases are, gas is so high right now.
That was asked back when gas went up the first time, and you guys didn't even want to do that.
Well, they still don't want to do it, but I didn't know this. Originally, I thought we needed the money. So we do need the money. If you're talking about doing a 3-month moratorium, That's 3 months of funds that you're not going to collect,
Right.
that you're going to be spending next year. But the real answer is that we're bonded state. So when we do road work, we borrow the money temporarily from on that bond to pay for those roads. So that's one of the big reasons that we do it. It would be like
do we have the money to do this, don't we?
We have the money to do it, but a lot of the problems is we just can't. We don't have the companies to do it.
Right.
There's only a handful of companies in South Carolina that's capable of doing this type of stuff.
Then why don't we address the problem that we have lack of help? I mean, why doesn't maybe the state look at taking on some of this rather than always contracting it outside?
A lot of it is just up cost. Somebody has suggested to me, well, if you can't get the work done from South Carolina companies, go to North Carolina, Georgia, and get those companies to come up. They're swamped too. They're doing all they can do. And to answer your question about why doesn't the state just take it over? I don't know if that would work any better, and you'd have the upfront costs. I just off the top of my head, I would think if you wanted to start a company that does complete road work, interstates, everything else, you're probably looking at a $20 million investment just to buy equipment that you would need to do that. And I'm not sure how much of that equipment that the state actually owns, but I don't know. I think we have enough government going on in our lives anyway.
I mean, and
but this, but this isn't working, with that. But personally, I think our roads are pretty good, but they're out there working every day. These companies aren't just sitting around. I was over near Miss Ann's, right across the street from the old Miss Ann's the other day,
Right.
and they're paving back roads and side roads, but it was Satterfield Construction out of Greenwood, and I don't know if those are being paid for by the county, if those been
Well,
if
that's what I
those are
was going
state
to say,
funds.
is that county or
But
county
I
or
see them
state?
working all the time when I go back and forth to Columbia. But the biggest problem to me is we have the money to do it, but we just don't have enough crews to get it done.
Okay, so again, what would be wrong with giving the folks a break for 3 months, since it looks like our gas prices are going up? What would be the problem, or doing it for a couple of months while the gas prices are high to give the folks a break?
Oh, I agree it would give them a break, but then you're going to have to answer for that 3 months down the road when you haven't collected that money to pay the bond on the money that you used to get the highway done. It would be like somebody saying, you know what, things are kind of tight. Gas is up. I'm just not going to make my house payment for 6 months. Well, you're under obligation to make that house payment for 6 months.
Don't we actually have enough money? In the
understand.
Emergency funds and everything, though, don't we actually have a lot of money? And isn't there in the budget in these funds?
We do have an emergency fund. We have right now currently. We used to keep $1 billion in excess for emergency funds. Now that went up to, in the new budget, that went up to $1.5 billion. And I've had people say, well, you need to use that money, or you need to give us that money back, and that is the people's money. But that money is there for an emergency fund.
I understand.
And
the emergency
and to me,
could be the roads here, Daniel.
Well, I don't know the numbers, but let's say we're collecting, let's say $300 million a year, or let's say 400. Make my math easy, $400 million a year off of the taxes, and then you stop it for 3 months. That's $100 million in the hole. And Ann's hollering, "Fix my road, fix my road." Well, you just took $100 million away from that fund. But the bond, and that was my question too. Why can't we do it? But the bonding issue was the big thing. It's just illegal to do it, and it's wrong. We're under contract for that bond to continue to bring that money in.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about. How about is there one more bill that you are very proud that it passed this session, or shall we move on to those that didn't pass?
No, let me find something here. This one, I like. This isn't a huge bill, and a lot of people won't think about it. Was the organized retail crime? You can get up to 15 years or $50,000 if you go into a Walmart and steal. People have been doing that. I worked in retail about 20 or 30 years ago,
right.
And it was a big problem. You would almost let them walk out the door with it rather than taking the chance of being sued. Now if they find out that there's 2 or more people involved, that those products are being fenced, and we can get back to the people that are fencing those products, they can get up to 15 years and $50,000. Tort reform is another one that they were working on very, very hard, trying to get the cost down. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure if it's going to work. They did to make some changes. We can't force insurance. We can't tell an insurance company what they need to charge. We can make an environment that would be leaning towards them lowering their rates. But the biggest thing that they're going to do is have more training for the restaurants and bars to make sure that's done. We're trying to, I don't use the word appease the insurance companies, but we're trying to motivate the insurance companies to lower those rates so they can be more affordable in South Carolina.
I'm not sure that's working, Daniel.
You think it's going to help? I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
Good.
I leave that to the senators, to the lawyers in the Senate.
Okay.
Because lawyers want to sue. You know this. What was it, $50,000, $50,000 before?
Right.
And they raised it to $1 million, thinking that, lawyers, they don't want to go after somebody for a $20,000, $25,000 case. I love you, Billy Garrett. They don't want to go after people for $20,000, $25,000. But you got $1 million hanging out there. They're going to be lined up to handle your case for you.
Right.
That's what I think the truth is. But that's just me, and I'm not a lawyer and don't play one on TV.
Right.
But again, we can't dictate what they're supposed to charge on that. And I love this one too, and we'll move on to the other ones. Is pregnancy care tax credit. It encouraged private donations to pregnancy centers and tax-exempt pregnancy centers that you can get tax breaks in South Carolina for that. A lot of pushback that we had from people that were against the heartbeat bills and all the stuff we're trying to do to reduce abortions in South Carolina. They would always say, "What are you going about the mother with the child that can't support him?" So this bill will help give you a tax benefit for helping these crisis centers and helping these mothers in South Carolina. And that's already been signed into law too.
So those are the ones that are signed into law. Now, what are maybe 2 or 3 bills that you wish they had passed this session?
That immigration enforcement, it didn't go far enough. And I'm not going to say it died a slow death in the Senate. That's my go-to. But but anyway, the immigration enforcement, the goal was to strengthen cooperation between the local law enforcement and the state authorities and federal authorities to tie them all together. It was amusing to see how they had a raid a week before the election in South Carolina on the primaries.
Right over there in Abbeville.
Woo-hoo, one big raid.
Right.
And then we lost a Mexican restaurant or two, you know. But there's industry all over South Carolina. There's contractors, there's landscapers out there. And be honest with you, they're taking jobs from Americans and from citizens that they always say, well, they won't do those jobs. Well, they will. If the pay is good enough and the benefits are good enough, the people will do those jobs. So I think that's a cop out. But either you have an immigration policy or you don't. And under the previous administration, there were millions and millions coming in.
Right.
And Trump said, "I'll stop it in one day." Guess what? He stopped it in one day. And I heard someone coming over that's running for Senate tonight on a station, and he brought up the fact about housing. Not just in South Carolina, but nationwide. Housing prices are going up about 30% on rentals because the demand is there. You take those 5-10 million people out of the loop.
Those prices will come down.
Yeah, the prices will come down.
So so that was one that you said did not pass. Any others that you're disappointed that you weren't able to get across the finish line in both houses?
Let me see. This one bothers me. We passed a bill called the FIDO Act, and what it did, if you injured or shot a police dog, you could get serious time for that. But one that we pushed really hard.
I thought that did pass.
It did. The FIDO bill did.
Right, okay.
But this one didn't, and it bothers me. It's called the HALO Act. And what the HALO Act does, it protects first responders from harassment or interference from
25
outside.
feet?
Yes, ma'am. It was going to be, in the House, we wrote it at 25 feet.
Okay.
And it moved around from 100 feet to 200 feet to 25. I think we passed it at 25 feet, and then when it went to the Senate, they wanted to set a perimeter of a reasonable amount, which to me, and I've talked with Sheriff Cox over in McCormick about this, and I said, which one had you rather have? He said, it's a no-brainer. I'd rather have the 25 feet. You can define and approximate 25 feet, but what's reasonable can be debated in court.
Sure.
There go the lawyers again.
Right.
So they want it to say a reasonable amount. So I haven't spoken with them lately, but that was the last I heard, and it went back to conference committee. And as far as I know, it hasn't came out of conference committee yet. Now, we can give conference committees full authority sometimes, and I know you've seen that vote before where we can't make a decision, but we're ready to wrap this thing up, and we really want to get it in the law.
Right.
We can let the conference committee go ahead and have closure on it. Yeah, and it's done. And then it would go straight to the governor. So it's just giving them our proxy vote. Really is what it's doing.
Where is that bill at then? Is it there, or is it just back to committee?
Last I heard it, they hadn't done anything with it. I haven't had an update, but the last I heard, it went to conference committee, but I don't think it's moved.
So is that in the Senate, or it's out of the Senate, and they're working as a group to do it?
I think it went to the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, the last I heard, I think it's on to the Senate. But either way, it's a good bill, and it's a simple bill. I like the 25 feet. It's hard to approximate 100 or 150.
Right.
And also, we want to put an exception in there for the hospital. So, you may have a police officer that's in an emergency room situation.
Right.
And he's going to have doctors and nurses running around and family members, things like that.
Right.
So we put an exemption in for that, too, to protect those hospital workers.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about some of the bills that you think were good, some that were bad. One of the biggest stories, I think, this year is the earmarks and the budget. And we've been waiting for this budget to come through. I think you can probably update us even more that they have made some decision about what they're going to put forth for a budget. Is that right?
Yeah. Again, the budget passed the House, flying colors. We asked for what we were asking for.
Right.
And it went to the Senate and it slowed down. But if you don't mind, I'll just go over some of the things that this is as of last night.
Okay, that would be great.
Last night, Davey Hyatt was in those meetings. He lives in Pickens County. He drove down there for the meetings, and he got home last night at about 1 or 1:30. But some of the things that all of these things we've been fighting for in the House is teachers' pay. Governor McMaster's goal 8 years ago was to get the starting teacher salary up to $50,000. It was currently at $48,600, and we've got that up to $50,500. That's going to stay in the budget.
That stays in.
Okay. And that's great. That got it taken care of last night. State employees and law enforcement. State employees is 2% increase. Law enforcement is 2%, but that money will go to the counties. We will just whatever they were budgeted for emergency services. That money, that 2% will go to the counties, and it's up to them to forward that to the law enforcement. I hope they do it. It bothers me when.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I was going to run down a rabbit trail, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, the question is, it's supposed to. Well, here's my question. You just said it was supposed that it goes to the counties, and it's supposed to go to the sheriff's department, law enforcement.
Yeah, we have given money. We are obtained funds for counties before, for emergency services.
Yes.
And then we would find out that new police car, the state got you $75,000 for a new police car, so we're not going to cut that from your budget, but we're just not going to include that in your budget. Does that make sense?
Right. So if you're saying state employees are getting 2%.
Yeah, state employees 2%.
But the sheriff, are you saying the sheriff's department, or is it all law enforcement?
Law enforcement's 2%, and that money will be given to the counties to distribute.
To the counties and or the cities, because I presume then if that's what you're saying,
whatever
the
money
sheriff's
they're going to get on
department
that.
and the police department.
Another one that you've talked with, I've talked with you about, and also you've spoken with Representative McCravey about, was the homestead exemption. John and I, and a lot of the legislators down there want to raise that up to $150,000. $50,000 is nothing on a house anymore.
Right.
So we wanted to raise that to $150,000.
So what did it go to?
Well, they settled it. They settled last night for $75,000, which I don't think is nearly enough.
It's not. Is that
why even move
additional
it?
75 or?
Yeah, you're exempt up to $75,000. Used to be exempt up to $50,000, but we wanted $150,000 in the house is what we
So
went
they
for.
just added $25,000 to it. Is that what you're telling me? 50
Yeah,
to
the
75.
exemption. Yeah, to increase it to $75,000. And like I said, we wanted $150,000. But here's the thing: doing it to $75,000 is still an $81 million. We're still lowering it $81 million for the homeowners. So that's that much money going back into the pockets of the homeowners. But it's coming out of the budget of South Carolina. But still, the big thing that John and I wanted was $150,000 exemption, and we wanted total exemption on 65 and over.
Sure.
I think if you work all your life and you pay for your home or you're still making payments, a lot of times when someone loses a spouse, their income is immediately cut in half. They have other expenses. I'm getting older. You're still kicking high, but I'm getting on up there, and you start to see medical expenses are increasing.
Right.
But the biggest thing is loss of a spouse. Your income's diminished, and then people have to sell their home because they can't afford to pay the taxes anymore, and that's just wrong in the United States.
I think, Daniel, with y'all, I'm just going to say it. It seems to me that there's a lot of talk down there, but not always a lot of action. This is something that was supposed to be a priority, and now you're telling me that it just maxed out at $75,000.
But that's not what we wanted in the House.
Right.
That's not what we wanted, but it was $150 when it was sent over.
To the Senate.
Yeah. But
so you're blaming this on the Senate.
I don't know. I wasn't in the meetings for their reasons to attend. Here's what I do, Ann. I mash a green button and I mash a red button. And that's all. And I always catch flat from you. Well, Daniel, all you had to do was raise it to 150.
Well, I just think that sometimes every year, I think people start out the year hopeful about what is going to happen at the beginning of session. And just like this session, I think the opportunity to get a lot more done could be gotten done, but y'all get hung up on stuff that doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
You talked about this cutting the property taxes almost all session just to come up with moving it from 50 to 75. But that's not right for the
It's
people,
not enough.
is it?
I agree with you. It's not enough. I don't think $150,000 is outrageous. I really don't. I mean, look at property values today.
No, but that would have been $100,000 more on their house. And seniors, should they have to pay it at all, is the question.
Well, and the bean counters, they're looking at it, well, that's another, if we're losing 81 on that one, that would be another $160 million they're losing in revenues. And you and I talked about this before we went on the air. Anytime you make a cut, anywhere, you've got to make that up somewhere. Somebody's going to pay for it. People want the tax break, but they don't want the break on the goods and services, right?
But in truth, how come the budget as it was standing was $3 billion more this year over last year's budget. Am I correct on that, or close to it?
It had increased quite a bit, but that was on not only anticipated income from people moving in. I think we're either number one or number two. It changes every week on people moving in. So we're going to have an increase. But again, on bringing those people in, our infrastructure costs are going to go up to bring them in when you're building subdivisions and more water, more electricity. So the increase that they have was based on what they believe we're going to have an increase going forward, not just today. But we're already bringing more money into South Carolina. That's why we're able to increase our emergency fund from $1 billion to $1.5 billion. And another thing on this, before I forget,
the question is $1 billion enough? Is that enough to have in an emergency fund?
I don't think $1 billion's a lot.
Do we need to put $1.5 billion, or is $1 billion enough? in an emergency
They felt like we
fund.
needed $1.5 million, and a lot of that was $1.5 billion. A lot of that was based on what happened with the big, was it the last Hurricane Helene?
Helene,
the
yes.
big one that came through. We're still cleaning up from that, and we will be for years. There's still a lot there. But one good thing about this, you have to live in the state 5 years. If there's a bright side, you're smiling. You have to live here 5 years to get that break.
To get what break?
The break on the exemptions of $75,000. You have to be a 5-year resident. But I agree with you 100%. It should have gone to 150. It should have gone to 65 and older. It's completely tax exempt. But that and see, and this 81 million that wouldn't take into account if we take away the 65 and over. You're probably looking at another 300-400 million if you do that. So where's that money going to come from? But John and I both think 65 and older, you paid enough. And if
Well,
we have
here's
to
the
raise,
question.
I think John came up with what, like 0.03% sales tax increase.
Well, here's
would
the
take care of that.
question. If new people move into the state, and they are seniors, do they get tax exempt on their properties or not? That's the question.
Hadn't thought about that one. That's a good one. But we put 5 years on this one.
Right.
So
but
what do you think? Should they get it? I mean,
no, I don't think they should. If they should have to
there
be
should be
residents
a time
of 5
limit on
years
that
or
one too.
something like that.
That's
Sure.
that's a good point because we put 5 years on this one. So I think you're right. That's a good thing, and that brings
Because
up a
those
point.
people, a lot of those people are buying really more high-end, nicer homes, correct? Yes,
Yeah,
a
and
lot
what-
of them are.
And I learned about this in Tennessee. What happened in Tennessee? We had TennCare, which was a pretty good health care system, but people would come in from other states, and pretty much on day one they were locked in. So they could have heart issues. They were going to have $200,000 or $300,000 heart surgery. They could move from Georgia, Alabama, wherever to Tennessee, and sign up for TennCare at a very low rate, and it nearly broke the system. That's the only time in my life that I can think of that I voted for a Democratic governor. Was because our Republican governor did such a poor job with TennCare, and I specifically remember voting for that. But they took advantage of it. So, but that's a good point. If somebody's going to take advantage of this system, if they say, "Hey, I'm 67, let's move to South Carolina, we're going to pay taxes," you're right. That should be in there.
Exactly.
That should be in
I
there.
think so.
Is 5 enough? You think? Maybe 10?
I don't know. Make it 10. What the heck? You better ask for 10 and hope you get 5. How about that? The way things go. But yeah, I think that's something to be talked about.
And you'd ask about the fuel tax too. I have some numbers on that.
The gas tax about.
Yeah, the fuel tax. They've set aside $175 million, and it's called the CTC, and that's going to be distributed to 46 counties. But I don't have a scale on that this time because my question to the bean counters was, well, how does Charleston compare to McCormick County? Because McCormick's one of the poorest, one of the lowest populated. And he said, we don't have the scales worked out on that yet. But anyway, there is going to be another $175 million that's from that fuel tax that's redistributed to the counties to use for their own roads. To be put back in those roads.
A lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them, like McCormick County, doesn't have the money. I think they normally, I don't know if they ever break even. I think they're always in the hole over there.
I think it's interesting. We always talk about Orangeburg, the corridor of shame and everything, but McCormick is a very poor county.
McCormick.
They don't have any real industry down there.
No, they don't. And McCormick, God, 20 years ago, it was a ghost town. And oh my God, have you been to Calhoun Falls lately? Have you seriously driven through?
No, I've not.
Drive through Calhoun Falls. You want to see something's going to break your heart. There's what would be a $250,000 brick house in Greenwood. In McCormick is sitting there, and you can't see the house for trees and weeds. And I'm not talking about out in the country. I'm talking about on Main Street, Savannah Street. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I rode by there one day is Craig is trying to help them get their water situation straightened out. So I rode over there just to see how bad it is.
You're talking about Calhoun,
Calhoun Falls. Yeah,
right?
it is awful. But I can remember when downtown McCormick was every building just about was empty.
Right.
And that place has really turned around. The village, sometimes there seems to be some resentment from the locals and I call them the village people, and that they don't take offense if you do grow up. It's okay. But they have sunk a lot of money into McCormick County through taxation.
Right.
A lot of them are very well-educated people. They're very willing to get out and help in the community. They've done an outstanding job at volunteering for various events. But
no,
that turned that town
Savannah
around.
Lakes has been a boon, whether the town people really wanted to accept that. It has been a boon.
It's helped them.
So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Scout Motors funding. They've received a great deal of attention. It came out yesterday. This is one thing that came out, is that they're going to get $150 million, is that right, for their issues down there from the state? Yeah,
the problem that I have with that is we were in a caucus meeting. I think this was probably around March or April. And one of the bean counters came over from Scout Motors, the guy that's overseeing the project. I can't think of his name. And this is the first time we'd heard of it. He just came up, well, we've had to do a lot of environmental issues.
Right.
And we've had to do this and that. And we're going to need another $150 million in the budget this year for it. And we're just all looking at it with our jaws agape, trying to, well, especially me, I sit on environmental. He never came to the environmental and talked to us.
Of these points?
Never came to my committee and talked to us about it. So I didn't like the fact that it was just thrown on us. And it's almost like, and what are y'all going to do about it? Well, to me, it's not our place. So what are y'all going to do about it? Should be the answer.
Right.
Or should be the question.
Well, it's kind of funny because that came up at the first part of session, January, February, somewhere.
Yeah, it came up about April.
And then it kind of dropped, and nobody was saying anything about it. And then we find out in the budget, it's in there in 3 different parts. I guess 3 smaller amounts for a total of $150 million.
Yeah, the reason you didn't hear anything about it because we didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. John didn't want to do it. John and I said the same thing. You know. First of all, if you're going to have an overrun, you let us know ahead of time and justify the overrun.
Right.
But you don't show up. You know, if you're building a house and you go to the bank and borrow $200,000, you don't show up on closing and say, I need $300,000.
Not usually.
Well, what happened? Well, we had some overruns.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
You don't do it that way. And it's just wrong. And I don't know what happened. I don't know the whole story.
Why are we doing this? I mean, they're already so far behind. They are so far behind. They were supposed to have cars rolling off or their Scout vehicles rolling off, I think, in 27. And they are not any closer to being ready to roll them off, are they?
Yes, I think they're closer to getting it done. But the problem that I have is hopefully that we didn't learn from the nuclear station. You know how many times we've been burned?
Right.
But what really upset the legislators, especially in the House, we were furious when they opened their home office in Charlotte, up in that area.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That was
wrong. You know, you don't bite the hands that feed you. And this ties back into the data centers. If you're going to contract with somebody to do something, and you have a contract, that contract needs to be obligated on both sides, but you shouldn't have to eat the overruns on those. So the same thing with the data centers. You got to make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's because there's always going to be unintended consequences. There's going to be things, and we need high-dollar lawyers. A lot of towns, they say, well, we'll have our lawyer look at it. No, you go pay $25,000, $50,000. Get you a high-dollar lawyer to make sure you're going to be protected on the back end of that deal.
So
and I
did
think
we
that's
not
where
have
a lot
any
of people.
high-dollar lawyers protecting the state on the back end on Scout Motors here?
But we're supposed to have. But we were furious, and you could hear a pin drop in that room. I mean, it just. So I never heard anybody in the House, and it never came to the floor. You know, we're going to vote for this, that, and the other.
Right.
We never voted on it in committee.
So how did it get into the budget?
It was requested by someone, apparently. Someone had to request. I mean, if I try to get money for the police department in Greenwood, I have to make that request. I have to fill out a lot of paperwork. So somebody had to make that request. I don't know who made it.
If you've got a question, we're sitting here.
But I'm with you on this one. I have a big problem
right.
with that $150 million.
We're here with Daniel Gibson, Representative Daniel Gibson. We're chewing the fat here at the station here this afternoon, talking about South Carolina, and we're talking about the budget right now. If you have a question or a comment, 864-332-9355, 864-332-9355. We're going to have to carry this show over a little bit because Daniel and I are just getting started. So please give us your questions. You can also come. We are on Facebook Live, so you can also comment right there on our page, WCRS. Penny has rapt attention today. She's not asleep. So, but this is a problem, I think, for 150. We're not talking about 50,000. We're talking about $150 million.
Oh yeah, I don't like it either. I know exactly how you feel. We were all flabbergasted when they came to it, and we didn't like the way it was handled. But it never came to the House floor. We never took a vote in caucus about it. We never discussed it, other than this is wrong. We don't want to do this.
We're talking about Scout Motors here.
Yeah, with Scout Motors.
Now, what about the island? You said nobody asked about the island. Okay, well, that's one. That's $150 million right there. That should be
$32 million on the island.
$32 million on the island. Let's see, what's
the name of it? I don't have it written down.
The Spit or something off.
Captain Spit something.
Yeah,
I think it's SpongeBob SquarePants when I watched the little crazy guy on there.
But anyways,
you want the short version?
Yes,
the short version is a big island down there, and these developers had it,
right?
And they wanted to develop it, and the state wouldn't issue permits because they didn't think you should. There's just some place you shouldn't build a house, right? There's houses in Charleston and Defusky Island that they will give you the house to move off of Defusky Island back inland.
Right.
So the state would not issue permits
but they thought
for this development, so they sued the state. And the bean counters think that we're better off to pay the $32 million to the people that brought the lawsuit than to fight the lawsuit that we may lose in the end anyway. That's the short version, and that's really all I know about it. I'd never heard of it until it came up in caucus, and they want to know, what do you guys want to do? I said, let's go to court. Fight them in court to see what happens. To me, I'd
rather roll the dice?
I know it's a stupid thing, but I'd rather have my day in court, even if you lose a little bit, it costs you $40, than just to roll over every time somebody threatens to sue. Because we get threatened with lawsuits all the time in South Carolina. I mean, we expect that,
Right.
We got sued over the life bill, right to life bill, and so you just expect that to happen.
Right.
But I'm a fighter. I'd rather fight it than just roll over and give them the money. But
so, are they getting the money for the island, or for the island?
I think they will. I think they will.
It sounds to me every time we're discussing something here. I don't know about everybody sitting out there that's listening to this. It sounds like the bean counters are more in charge than the people that we send down there to do the job, Daniel.
No, but the option is not just to take that out. Right. A lot of people just don't vote for the budget down there. A lot of legislators just don't vote. And I think John has done this before. I've always voted for the budget, but a lot of them will look at it, and the Freedom Caucus will do this sometimes. They'll say, well, I'm not voting for this because it has this in it. And you're looking at a $15 billion budget. Well, I'm not voting for it because of this. And they'll go back and tell their constituents what a hero they are. And I said, that's fine. If you don't want to vote for something because it has Captain Spit in there,
right,
then don't go back home and brag about how you got the teachers their raises, how you got the fire department $500,000. We've got a guy in Anderson, when Craig went down there to give out a check that we had procured for a fire department, a grant for them, and the representative that did not vote for the budget, has never voted for a budget in 8 years, was sat there with a little smiley face right there in the picture when you're presenting the check to the fire department. I don't like that. That's hypocritical. It's wrong. It's two-faced. I can go on and on and on. But I have always voted for the budget, and there are always things in there that I don't approve of. There's things that I don't like.
Well,
but I think it's weak just not to vote for the budget.
Okay.
Now, you should make an effort to get those things out. But to be honest with you, unless you got a lot of power and you're on Ways and Means, high up, you don't have a lot of clout. And I'm being honest with you when I say that. You know that. That's Ways and Means runs the show on as far as the money.
So what they have done with the budget is they have separated out a lot of the earmarks that came from the House side of the budget, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I understand. And those will be discussed after the budget that is signed that does the teachers' pay and some of those things that we talked about. Is that right?
Yeah, there's what's happening. The House had a budget that we sent over. I think had $300 million in earmarks, I think, on that one. And I think the Senate came up with about 120 in earmarks. And that's where their debate was last night is, well, we'll cut some from the House and cut some from the Senate. And that's what my understanding is that's what the agreement was. They're going to make those cuts on both sides. So I've had people that call me for earmark requests from the sheriff in McCormick County, and I can't give them an answer yet. And that's just crazy. You know, a lot of times they'd have already had their money by now.
Right.
And buy the equipment. That's the thing. But my understanding is that they're negotiating for us to reduce our 300 and for them to reduce their 120. But again, and I don't like this, if you've been there 15, 20, 25 years and you're sitting on high committees, you kind of have a control over that. It bothers me that I can't get $200,000 for our sheriff's department, but they can get $9 million for whatever their project is, or they can get $300. And that's a true story about the orangutan thing. I don't know if you've heard that one. The $3 million for an orangutan for the Greenville Zoo.
Right.
Democrat actually put that one in, so don't blame us on that one. But that was a Democrat request, and I don't know if she got the orangutan enclosure or not. But that's one that the far right pushes all the time. But that was a Democrat request. That wasn't a Republican request on that one. And also, we did, before I forget, we do have funding for SNAP to continue that.
I saw an article about that where they were talking about the federal government is cutting the amount of money that they're bringing that they will allow to be used for SNAP if your costs are more than 5%, 7%, whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know the federal side, but I know the state approved the SNAP budget, and we also approved meals for children in summer school.
Summer school.
The regular session is already covered anyway, but this would also include the summer schools that we're going to do.
So the bottom line is the budget sort of has a deal. I guess the governor will sign the one part of it, and then they will continue negotiating on the earmark part. Is that right?
I don't know if he'll sign it before they finish up those. We've got to go back and sign up. We'll have to go back and sign off on it in a couple of weeks when they get it finalized. But one thing that people need to know, and not one person has asked me or mentioned this, had we not completed the budget, it would have gone back to last year's figures.
Well, that's how they've been able to continue.
Yeah,
is
with
because we're
revolution.
working on last year's budget. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we would have done and continued on through. So the raise for the teachers.
Maybe that's not a bad thing when you look about how much money you're increasing the budget by, Daniel.
It may not be a bad thing unless you're a teacher or a firefighter, or you want your roads fixed, or you want Captain Spitz Island paid for.
I don't want the Captain Spitz, and I really don't want Scout Motors paid for. But that's beside the point.
I think that's wrong, and I think I would think that a company would be bonded and insured when they make a proposal.
Right.
Even if it's our guys, the state should be bonded or insured.
Right.
But I don't know the ins and outs. I just know I don't like it. It was thrown on us out of nowhere. And what really bothered us, somebody said, how long have you known about this? I think the guy said 8 or 9 months. And we're like, well, why are you just coming to us now? So
I remember when it came out. It was January or February where it became an open issue.
Yeah.
I don't know how much before
But they had
that.
known about it for a long time to find that.
Yeah.
But we're a lot nicer than you think we are, and we work a lot harder than you think we do.
I don't doubt that you work harder. But here's the question now. We're going to have the bills, all the bills that were in the system, they've died. They are not going to be carried forward to the next session. Is that right?
Yeah, we're in session 126. We're in the second year of section 126. So anything that doesn't clear up, is not codified or signed into law, we'll start over. But that's
in January.
That's simple. You just rewrite the bill. You know, if you want to make changes to it, you know, it gives them time to do that. So you rewrite the bill. You reintroduce the bill in December or whatever. Go ahead and put it in the turnstile. And then when we go back in session in January, it'll go right back to right back and start over. It doesn't go to the front of the line. It just goes back and starts over.
So
that's the bad side. We've had 28. I think I had 32 that's been signed into law, 28 that wasn't codified. And so that's 28 in addition to the probably another 200 bills that people will put forth. I've got bills lined up now that people are requesting from me that will go into the system.
What are you looking for? This is what I wanted to finish up on, is what are you looking for next session? What are you looking at? Proposals, bills, this type of thing are you looking for next year?
Some of the things that people have come to me about is the fire departments. I've had one of the fire departments, and this may seem like a small thing, but it's a big deal to them. And I didn't know this. When the fire department buys a fire truck, they pay taxes on that truck, but there's a cap on it. I think it's $500 or whatever. That's okay. That doesn't bother them. What does bother them is if they spend $40,000 on breathing apparatus, they're going to wind up paying about $2,500 on South Carolina sales tax. So a lot of the fire departments are asking for that tax break. I don't think any taxpayer would have a problem with them getting that. I haven't ran the numbers on it for the entire state of South Carolina. We'll have to do a fiscal study to find out how much money it's going to cost the taxpayers and the state to do that. That's one of them.
Why would it cost the taxpayers? Why wouldn't they? Why
well,
can't
the money's
they?
because sales tax goes into general fund, so it's going to lower those coffers. You know, and off the top of my head, let's say there's $10 million coming into general funds on sales tax. That it's not going to be there. So I'm just saying, I don't know anybody that has a problem with a fire department getting a break. These guys are selling hot dogs,
right?
To buy breathing equipment.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
So that's
to me.
one that I've done. One that I'm interested in bringing up. Another one, and you and I have talked about this very shortly before, about raising the age of consent in South Carolina.
Okay,
Romeo and Juliet. I won't go into the whole thing, but you're familiar with it. It's currently 14. I would like to see that raised to 16. And I don't know if there's a magic number, but this is coming from constituents. Mm-hmm. This is not stuff I just sit around and make up while I'm watching the Dutton Ranch or something.
Right.
So I'd like to see that raised to 16. What I don't like...
Why don't you go for 18 while you're at it? I mean,
Well, yeah. Could go for 18. Okay. I'd be happy to get 16, though. Okay. Because I think 14, you're just a child.
Right.
So those are a couple of things that I want. The thing that I don't like, and I'm still not a politician. I told you that with the first day I met you. I'm still not a politician. But when politicians get up and start saying what they're going to do, it's the same thing. I'm going to lower your taxes.
Right.
I'm going to give more money to the school. We're going to give more money to the teachers. It's the same old thing year after year. And I know people get tired of hearing it because I get tired, and I don't say it. We are limited as to what we can do, and you know that. During the governor's race, I would get so annoyed. I would hear people, well, if I'm elected governor, I'm going to do this. I get so mad I'd throw things. I say, no, you're not. You don't have the power to do that.
Right.
The governor in South Carolina is very limited in their powers. So don't buy into all that stuff when these governors...
I think the thing the governor has, they do have a bully pulpit.
They do.
And they could work with you guys, the House and the Senate, a lot better than what sometimes they do. I mean, I think that is something futuristically, is getting in there and getting down with them and working together for what
But you
should
do
be
that by doing it. You sit down with caucus and you say, and I've probably seen the governor, maybe he's probably spoken to caucus 4 times. Of course, he talks to leadership all the time. But that annoys me when these people tell you, I will do this, this, this. And as Ann tells you, we don't have the power we think we have down there. There's a lot of things we want to do, and we don't always agree. Even Republicans and Democrats don't always agree. We do have a voice, though. And here's the thing I tell people. Republican has a super majority down there. I'm a Republican, and I'm proud of that. Mm-hmm. If you don't like something, come to us. Because we brag about being a super majority. We brag about we have all this power. And we flaunt that, and I like that. I like the fact that we do get things done.
Some people would say otherwise, but okay, go ahead.
But that's okay. So come to us and say, you said this, and you're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem. It's so funny. We had an instance, and I won't call the people's name, but you asked me to give out my phone number, and I gave out my home phone. I'm one of the few down there that if you want to talk to me, you call me on my personal phone. I'll answer the phone. And if leave a message, I'll call you back. But you had someone that said, well, I'll give out my number if I get elected. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's true. I know who you're talking about, yes. And they did not win their election either, so just FYI. All right, so you're.
But I'm easy to find. You can tell if you can't find me, you call Ann Ella and
I'll track you down.
She'll track me down.
Okay, you're seeking another term. Why do you want to continue serving?
I think I made a difference. I really do. I think I made a difference. And you may not see it on Scout Motors. You may not see that, but we make thousands of votes every session, and I don't just sit there and flippantly mash those buttons. I give it deep thought and a lot of prayer. And I don't always agree with my associates. I love John McCravey. I love him. I love Billy Garrett. And he's in the Senate, so it don't count. But John and I sit side by side, and he laughs when I tell this story. But he will make a vote, and I'll say, John, what in the world are you doing?
Right.
Well, that's what the people want. And I'm proud of the fact that I've never been told how to vote by John McCravey or by Billy Garrett or by the Republican caucus. Now, a lot of people find that hard to believe, but I'm telling you, not one time has the Republican caucus ever said, Dan, you need to do this, you need to do that. Not one time. And they will tell us that. They'll say, we're not going to tell you how to vote, but we want to know how you feel, what your input is. So I'm, more than anything, one of the greatest things I'm very proud of is the fact that nobody tells me how to vote. I may vote against Mr. McCravey. I almost said Brother McCravey. But I start preaching. Sometimes I vote against John, and I understand why he's doing what he does. And I tell him why, and he understands why I'm doing what I am. So it's like I reckon it to being on a jury. There may be 11 of us sitting there, and everybody says guilty, but Ann says not guilty. You see things through your life experiences and through your eyes, and that's kind of the way it is in the House.
Right.
We don't always agree. It's rare that we have 100% vote on something. But even doing that, when it goes to the Senate, that doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. We fought over redistricting. I don't want to get into all that.
No, I don't want to get into that either.
But pass the House, no problem.
Right.
And that was a chocolate mess. That was a mess.
It was a mess because it was brought up at the very end. That's what made it, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And again, they didn't tell us.
It could have been brought up at the first part of the session. It would have been a lot different.
Well, they knew this election was coming 20 years ago.
Right.
It comes every 2 years, all right?
So what message would you like to leave with your constituents there, Daniel?
I think one of the biggest things, and I've actually had people that, I won't get into that. I'm just telling you. Number one, I have 100% attendance. To me, 99% of the work is just being there. Mm-hmm. And that's a miracle. For
it's
4
a miracle?
years? No, for 4 years to never miss a day.
Right.
I've worked sick. I've worked where I couldn't hold my head up. And I drive an hour and a half to Columbia and back. And it's a big deal to be there 100% of the time. I've never missed a vote that I know of. And if I did, I was in the restroom, and it wasn't an important vote. You're going to miss some votes. So people have asked, well, why didn't you vote on this or vote on that? I was there. I don't know what happened. So I'm 100% there. Another thing is I have never one time spent the night in Columbia. I made a decision that I work for the people of Greenwood County and McCormick County. It's more important for me to go have coffee with the sheriff and find out what their needs are than to sit down there with lobbyists and hobnobbing with all them people down in Columbia. That just doesn't mean a thing to me. My place is to be here with the people of Greenwood and McCormick County. And I do that. You see me all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think you got a cot at the VFW place because you stay over there all the time. But you got to be out there listening and talking to the people. And I know I do that. I know. And the fact that I'm accessible, I've had people call me up.
What is your telephone number, Daniel?
Huh?
What is your telephone number?
And this is my personal number, and it's easy to reach. It's 864-396-0245. And if you call Columbia on my 803 number, you're just going to get my office or a voicemail or my secretary unless I'm down there. So feel free to call me with any, and I get calls every single day. And the biggest surprise is when I call them back. The first thing they'll say is, I can't believe you called me. I'm like, well, you called me. And then it takes an hour and a half to get to Columbia. So after about 30 minutes, they're sick of me. They're like, and a lot of them will agree with me. Once they hear my position, they'll say, well, I didn't know that. They've heard the 15-second sound bite, or they've read an article somewhere, or somebody told them, Uncle Willie told them, or they saw on the Facebook.
Right.
But I said, let me go over the bill with you, and I'll pull the bill up and go over it and say, this is why I voted against that bill. And they're like, I didn't know that.
Well,
not everybody lives and breathes this stuff like you and I do.
Well,
Bless our heart.
information is king. All right, Penny has a question for you. Penny, that's part of our show here. Penny gets to ask
Is it a rough question? It's going to be a rough one?
It's a rough question, yes. If you could pass one law tomorrow, not about politics, but simply something that would make life a little better for the people of South Carolina, what would it be?
Everybody would find the Lord.
You pass a bill for that.
Oh, yeah. It'll change your life. I used to be a nightclub disc jockey. I don't know if I've told you that.
Nightclub disc jockey?
But yeah, when I was a kid for about 8 years, and I got tired of my life one day, and I said, Lord, true story. I was in a little church of God. I said, God, if there is a God, you save me today, I'll serve you the rest of my life. And I have failed miserably in my life. But I've never forgotten that promise. And I'm sure he never forgot it either.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, Daniel. All right, Penny, you got your question answered here, okay? All right. Now, if our listeners remember just one thing from this legislative session update, what would you hope that they take away from today's conversation?
From your listeners?
Yeah, for our listeners, for those that have listened to the show, what would you like them to remember out of all the things we've talked about? We certainly have talked about a lot.
I would tell them to get involved more. I'm amazed at how many people reach out to me that don't know the facts. Again, they know the sound bites and all that, but reach out. You can go to the state website, southcarolinastatehouse.gov, and look up all these bills that we're talking about. If you don't know the bill number, you can just type in a word search and find the bill. So the first thing I would say is educate yourself about the bill before you call us. And then when you do call us, let us know your concerns. Reach out to us. I may not agree with you, but I will listen to you, and I will explain to you my position. And if you've never visited the State House, I say come down there. It's spiritual to me. The day I was sworn in, I'm 70 years old, standing there with tears in my eyes because I took it serious. That to me, that's a sacred place.
That's a pretty cool place. The first time I was down there is when Billy gave me that resolution from the Senate. Yeah,
it's a beautiful place, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
And we'll just call my office and we'll set up a tour for you, and we'll tell you about the war of northern aggression.
Okay.
Show you where the cannonballs hit our beautiful capital.
Okay. All right. Well, Daniel, this has been really great for you to be here today. Anything else you'd like to say before I close this out?
No, I just want to thank the people for sending me down there. And sometimes we slip up. I've made the statement, and other people have. They say, "What's your district?" I'm in District 12 in McCormick and Greenwood County. Well, first of all, it's not my district, and I think about that every time I say it. I catch myself. I represent the people of District 12, but it's not my district, and I count it an honor that you send me down there to work for you. And regardless of what Aunt Ella tells you, I work hard. I work really hard.
You're right. Well, okay. Thank you very much, Daniel. Hey, I'm Ann Eller right here with Penny. She's been awake the whole time, just looking forward to the end of the interview here today, I think. Daniel, it's been really nice for you to come and sit down with us and talk to us about all the issues. And this really was a pivotal time to come because they are finishing up on the budget. And this was a lot of important information that we got here today. So thank you for coming out today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for always having me. It's always fun. I remember the first time I came here, I'm like, what am I going to talk about for an hour? And it flew by. So
yeah, there you go.
I always enjoy coming by.
Well, thank you very much. And as this political season heats up, I know we'll see you back because you're running for office.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This will be my third term.
Yes, that's right. All right, this is WCRS right here in Greenwood. I am Ann Eller here with Princess Penny. As you know, I'll be back in the morning. And don't forget, you can always check out this podcast and others right there on our website. This one will be up probably tomorrow evening, WCRS1450am.net. And don't forget about my new Spotify and iTunes where we're listed now as A Girl and Her Mic. So that's going to do it for us. Take it away, drop the curtain, and cue the music, and see you in the morning. Bye-bye, everybody.